Casting, 95% of the casting happened online. It was very hard for me geographically to, move around and meet people and network with people. So I just used the internet very effectively, in terms of contacting agencies, networking on the phone with agents, and the most uh, the most effective, I don't want to say the most effective, but the most responsive agency was the Craze Agency. The majority of the headshots I was getting back were from the Craze Agency. The most, interesting, looking characters, or the most, I want to say, potential candidates for the film were coming from the Craze Agency. So I called Michael Risk, who happens to be the booking agent and one of the casting agents at the Craze Agency, and he said, "Yeah, I'll help you cast this." And he said, it was so funny on the phone. He said, "Man, I would be interested in being a part of this project myself." And I said, "Okay." Well, he sent me the headshot, and I was like, "This is him. This is the bad guy." I'm like, "Wow." A lot of directors are different. They got to go through many casting sessions. They got to go through many, read throughs and callbacks and callbacks. Well, when you're working with no money, you don't have a lot of like free gas money. You don't have a lot of free studio space to go and do these casting calls. So you got to really kind of work within your means. And I mean, with the internet, anything is possible. So I did most of my casting online. I casted Michael Risk was the first one who plays Vincent that I cast for the role. A day or two later, he sent over a headshot for Patty, or Patricia Mayer, and I said to myself, "Wow, this is her. I don't need to look any further." It was amazing. The headshots that came in, I basically looked at the headshot and said, "This is the person I want." And maybe that's not the right way to do it, but I think that in terms of an audience member, in terms of what I want to see in a movie, casting the look, that's really important to me. You got to cast the characters, and a lot of people will cast differently to suit the talent needs. I think it's wrong. I think you really need to cast and stay true to yourself, on casting. So working with Patty was very nice. I really enjoyed working with Patty. She is so nice and she's so calm and she's so relaxed, and she was kind of like everybody's big sister on the set. I mean, amid all the problems, the lighting problems, the cast and crew, I would always look to Patty and she would just look at me and just be totally calm. And so she kind of brought the balance to the force, or I'm sorry, the balance to the set, and but Patty's character, Lithia, was a very hard character for her to play. We went through several script sessions where we were trying to solidify her feelings because, women are so full of so many emotions, but you can't film that. You can't film emotions of all sorts. You have to kind of harness it down to two or three emotions. So once we kind of figured out Lithia's emotion and the roller coaster she was experiencing, I mean, here she's lost her love of her life, and there's this guy on the balcony shooting at them, and I mean, it was just like, I can't imagine what kind of a character. I can't imagine what would be going through her mind, and it was hard for her, I think, in some cases, to perform that, to act that out. And so I told her on the set, just make this as real as possible. This is like a documentary. You're not acting. This is a real emotion, and she admitted it perfectly. And I think her performance was dynamite, and everything came out well. Working with Michael was an interesting experience. Michael has a lot of uh, talent. He's very he's very meticulous, and he critiques himself quite a bit, which is good. And to an extent, you have to let your actors breathe. And so I felt like Michael needed some breathing room. So immediately when working with Michael, I said, Michael, you're really into this character. I mean, you really like this character. So I'm going to let you and Vincent go talk to each other and figure each other out. And Vincent was Michael and Michael was Vincent, like in the next week. And it wasn't even an issue. Like directing Michael was really fun because he was always changing the lines, changing the performance, um, and it was almost a situation where I had to kind of contain him and contain his character because he was actually letting his character come out of the cage too much. So I had to kind of harness his energy and harness his his professionalism and his talent. So that's Mike for you. Chris Johnston. Working with Chris was a really good experience. When I received a headshot from the Craze agency, I originally, to be honest, I kind of put it in my save for later folder. I was still not quite certain that he was Lancaster. I liked his headshot, uh, and I liked the look that he had, but I wasn't really sold quite that easily. I really thought that whoever's going to play Lancaster's really got to have, a chivalry, kind of a presence that when he walks in the room, you're like, whoa, he's a somebody, you know. And so, and we were actually already starting into production. And I was still trying to find my Lancaster. Like, it was a nightmare. Like, we already had the crew, we had the locations. We actually started scheduling when we were going to shoot this thing. And I was still, like, looking for this actor, this Lancaster. Well, I think I talked to probably 40 guys on the phone and emailed people back and forth, and weeks went by, and I'd already rehearsed it almost a month into rehearsals and still had not casted this guy. And I remember thinking to myself, it's so funny. I've got Vincent, I've got Lithia. We've already been rehearsing for a month. The only thing holding us up is I do not have, this Lancaster character. So at one of our film meetings, I went through the headshots and selected two or three that I thought were the most, worthy, I guess you could say. And out of the three, the only guy that showed up was Chris. And I thought, these other two guys have been begging me for a whole month for the role. These two guys. And, Chris didn't really communicate with me at all. He emailed me a few times as a follow-up, kind of a favor, but wasn't really pushing any issues or pushing his agenda. But man, I got emails from these two other guys like you wouldn't believe, and it was getting way out of hand. And I said to these guys, look, show up at this meeting we're having, and I'll talk to you, I'll interview you, and I mean, we'll see what happens. So what happened was they didn't show up, but Chris showed up. Chris showed up, and we met up at the Salt Lake City Library. He walked to the door, and I was like, I don't know who that guy is, but that guy's perfect for Lancaster. I hope he. Oh my gosh! And I'm like, wait, he's walking towards me. Whoa, he's looking at me. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And I'm like, are you Chris? He's like, yeah, I'm. I'm like, you got it. You got the role. And he was just like, what? And I'm like, go over and talk to Sean. He's the makeup guy. Go meet your two co-stars and get your fangs. You're gonna have to get fangs and contact lenses. So you need to get over and start talking to Sean about the makeup situation. And Chris looked at me like, blink, blink. Okay. And he kind of like slowly handed me his headshot, and I was like, thanks. Set it aside, and I was talking to my crewmen and the camera guys, and that was the end of it. I mean, he walked through that door. I looked at him, and the deal was done.